All right, welcome back to the part 2 of our GPA calculator. Now, we've designed the first page here. Let's go into coding part of it. But before then, let's see what this is actually going to do if we run the program. So click on Start to run the program. All right, we have the program right here. And now I can, let's say my CTE 112, I wrote it properly, very well, and I scored A. And then it's come 221 rather, I got B. Okay, now we now click on compute. Immediately you click on compute, it's supposed to show you the GPA you got, and then the semester grade, whether in distinction, upper grade, the rest of them. But now we didn't write any code to do that for us. That's exactly what we want to do right now. But before then, realize that there are two things very, very important when you're writing this program. You need to know the credit unit for each of the courses. That's one. And you need to know what A actually represents, what B actually represents, what BC and the rest actually represent. Those are the vital things you need to know. Okay, let's see on the coding environment. Now we go to, this is the form, so we can just double click here to take us to the coding environment. All right. Now the first we want to declare is our credit units. Remember, we have 10 courses, so that means that our credit units is actually going to be 10 credit units, one per each course. So let's come here and then dim, let's just call it CU, that stands for credit units. Now the credit units, we can name it credit unit 1, credit unit 2, credit unit 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but that's going to be a very long run for us. All right. We're going to use what we call array right now to do that. So open and close bracket tells the compiler in VB that I'm dealing with array. Now, as what? Since we're going to write CU, it's always a value and an integer value. It's not going to be float. It's always 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just like that. No decimal number. So you can dim our CU as integer. All right. Now, equal to, okay? Now, these are the values for the credit unit. The first course, let's call it CTE. What do you have there? That was CTE 112, had a credit unit of 2, so we just write the 2, comma. The second had, let's say, 2. The third, let's say, 3, like that till 10 places. Okay, so we have 10 credit units, each for each course. Now we're done with that. Okay. The second thing we need to take care of is that your grade A represents 4.0 in polytechnic system. AB represents 3.5. B represents 3.25. So we're going to do the same thing, just like what you've done with the credit unit. Now we have A, B, B, C, C. That's about 9, if I'm not mistaken. So then that simply means we're going to have dim, let's call it grade value. It's still going to be array as now. Since grading system A is 4.0, B is 3.5, that means it's a decimal value. So we're going to use double equal to, all right, A represents 4.0, AB is 3.5. All right, we have this value here. This is for the A, this is for AB, B, BC, C, CD, D, E, and A. That represents the grades you can choose from, and this is your credit unit. Okay, now let's get back to something else. Now, each time you probably choose A here, for you to get your GPA is gotten by the multiplication, the product of your credit unit multiply with the value you have in respect to your grade, the summation of everything divided by the summation of your credit units. That's going to give you your value. Now, assuming, let's say, my CTE 112, I had something like B. That means this is ABB. I had 3.25. That's the points for B. Now, that 3.25, it's going to be multiplied by 2 and then stored somewhere. The same thing happens again for the next course till the 10 courses is completed. Now, when it's complete, we're going to have 10 values generated again. Now, these 10 values will be added together and then have a point divided by the summation of these credit units. That's going to give you your GPA. So that means we need another array that will hold the values, the product of your credit unit and your grade for the 10 courses. So we're going to call this view again. Let's call it results. It's still going to be array. As remember, it's going to be double because when you multiply a double value with an integer, is going to result to double. All right. Now that will be equal to. Now, since we don't know the value that's going to be generated, depending on what the user will have as a result, so we're going to declare 10 zeros. Now, this 10 zeros means that if probably I scored A in my first course, that means 2 times 4 will give me 8. This place will change to 8. That's just it. Okay, we're done with that very part. Now, the next thing we want to do is let's try to find out the sum of all this, because your credit unit is going to be summed. Like the sum of everything here will give you your credit unit. You can't do that here. So let's declare a sub for that. Let's declare a sub for that. Now, before then, you will have to declare a variable to store that value. Let's call it dim cu sum. That's everything that you will sum together as integer equals to nothing, because we're going to sum it from somewhere. So we come here and then we private sub calculate. You can call anything you like. Okay. Inside here we will have. Now remember that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. So it's going to be calculating, adding them in single pairs. Then we're going to use the for let's say x. I love using I equals to 0, 2. Now you can choose to use to 9 because the values here is that 10. But when you are using an array or a for to be an array, the first value is an index of 0. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 to 9. You can't start with 1. All right. The first index is always what? Index 0. So that means for I equals to 0 to 9. But using 9 may not be appropriate. You can simply use cu. All right. Dot length minus 1. Okay. Sorry about that. Cu dot length minus 1. This means that the value, the element in Cu is how many? There are 10 elements. But because of that 9, because it starts actually from 0, so the minus 1 will take care of that value to become 9 for you. This means from 0 to the element inside Cu, which is 10 elements minus 1 will still give you 9. All right. Okay. Now, what are you going to do with this? What I'm going to do here is every time a value comes in, add it to a Cu sum. Now, this is what I mean. Cu sum plus equal to Cu in bracket I. Let's explain that. What does it mean? Now, the first value, let's just declare C to be 0 to avoid some garbage result. All right, this is 0. So the first value in CU sum is what? 0. All right. Now, this is a composite assignment. Simply meaning, let me write it very well. It means CU sum equal to CU sum plus CU in brackets I. Let me explain that for you, what it really means. Okay. What this means is, remember that CU sum is 0 initializing. So this is 0 equal to 0 plus. Now, the first time this for loop is initializing, we have 0, right? So this I becomes 0. Now, what is CU 0? That means CU, the first index is 0, which is 2. So that means 0 plus 2 will be stored, it becomes what? 2. Okay. Now the for loop goes again. The next value here is going to be 1. So 1 becomes the next value of CU. It becomes what? 2 again. So 2 plus the value that was already in CU sum becomes what? 4. It goes back again. The for loop becomes 2. So 2 now is what? 3 in the index. So 3 will now be placed here. So CU of 3 is what? Of 3 is what? Of 2 rather is 3. So it becomes 2 plus the value that was there already, which is 4. That becomes 7. If you calculate them like that, you definitely have the total value here present. So this and this are the same thing. I can simply take this off. It's not really important for now. So we have our value of CU sum. Okay. Now, we also need the value of this result, which is going to be the product of this and the product of this. Okay. Now, this is where your A, B, BC, and the rest will come in. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Let's leave this part for now and then create another. Let's create another private sub. Let's call that GP point. All right, I think that's okay. Now, what's going to happen in GP point? If, all right, if the value that is selected here is A. Now, what's the name of this man? If you look at it, it's called combo box 1. So I'm going to say here, if the value of combo box 1, okay, dot text is equal to A. Remember, A is going to be a string. If the value is A, then what are you going to do? Then your index, result index, that's the index of result 0. That means result at index of 0 will now have the value of your, look at this, will now have the value of your index of credit unit 0 multiplied by grade value index 02. So that's going to give us CU at index 0, all right, okay, multiplied by the grade, which is grade value at index 0. Grade value not declared. Let's look at the spelling. Okay, it's great val, not value. Sorry about that. Okay. Now, what does this mean? It means that if a user selects A, okay, that's result, this is your result, which is index 0, we'll take the value of this, multiply with this. Is that okay? All right. Now, else if combo box 1.text is equal to AB, okay, then result at index 0 will be equal to CU at same index 0 because the credit unit cannot change. Now multiply by grade val. Okay, but this time it's going to be index 1 because 3.5 is AB value. All right. Now you will continue like that till the last value. But come to think of it, now these same values will be repeated for the entire combo boxes to 10, and that's very huge work for us to do. It's very huge work for us to do. So instead of doing that, we can use a sub, like you generated a sub, and then we pass a value that will be generating every time we want it. Now let's call the value, pass a value by val. Now let's, instead of using this combo box one, which is going to be changing at every time, let's call this com. That's for the combo box that's going to be changing. As remember, we're going to pass a string, so you're going to write a string here, comma. We need 3 values. We need the combo box. we need the results, and then we need the CU. This one is just changing per time. It does not affect the work. So the next thing here is the result. Okay, so we now pass by val. Let's call it answer. All right, answer as. Now, what is it gonna take? It's gonna take a double value, a double, and the third one is a credit unit, which is gonna be changing. So let's call this credit. All right, as that one is integer. Okay, so now this means that we're gonna be passing 3 parameters to this function we are calling. So instead of using combox1.text, we are going to use what? Com here, C-O-M-B. Okay, instead of using result, we are going to use what? Answer, just answer, A-N-S. Then instead of using the credit unit, you're going to use what? You're going to use the credit. Okay, all right. Now the grade value remains the same. So here we have comb, C-O-M-B, so it's going to be a long video, C-O-M-B. Then here also we have the answer, A-N-S. Here we have the credit. Okay, all right, we've declared our parameters. Okay, so now what we're going to simply do is to go back to our form. For here, just double click on it. It takes us to the coding environment for the combo box one to select. So what we're simply going to do is to call this function, that's the GP point. We call it GP point. Okay, now GP point, we're going to pass 3 parameters. The first parameter we're going to pass is the combo box name. So we have combo box 1 dot text, because we're going to take the text value, comma. Now that's for the first parameter, combo box. The second parameter is the answer, which represents your what? Your index for your result. So the index there is going to be what? Result 0, result and 0. All right, comma, and then the last we're going to pass the credit unit. So the credit unit for combo box 1 is going to be what? The 2, which is CU at index 0. So we have CU at index 0. All right, I hope that's understood. That's very simple and easy. Okay, we now go to the second part. Double click here, the same thing. Now your GP point, remember that's combo text, so that's combo box 10. It's just here. It depends on how you arrange it. Here it's supposed to be 2, 3, 4, but depends on how you arrange it. It doesn't really matter. So we have combo box 10. Just follow what we have here. Dot text, comma. The second one is going to be result at index 1. Okay, and then the third is going to be CU at index 1. I hope that's understood. Repeat the same thing for the rest of the combos. Okay, I think we are actually done with that. So that means that each of these values will be saved here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 values that will be saved. Now we have to find out the total sum of whatever will be saved here, and the same process can still be done. So we will go to where we have the calculate value here and do the same thing. Now we can choose to use J. I like J. For J equals to 0 to this time around, we're going to use the length of this very value, which is result. So we have result dot length, all right, minus 1, just like what we did above there. So we're now going to have our results will be plus equal to the values generated here. That's results. Sorry, you have to declare a value to save this also. So let's call this total dim total as double equal to 0. So our total is going to be result and then J. That means save the value that you generate into a value called what? Total. Total into a variable called total. Okay. Now the next thing we are going to do here is to divide this value by this value. We're going to divide this value by this value. So that can simply be done in our compute environment. So we come to the compute coding environment and simply declare that our answer for our GPA, let's declare a value called dim GPA as double equal to 0. So we head down to our compute button and then call it that our GPA is simply equal to the total value, sorry about that, equals to the total value, all right, divided by the value of the C sum. So we have total divided by the CU sum will give us our GPA. CU sum will give us our GPA. That's all. Now after that, we have to print this value to the screen. So we come back here, and then what's the name of this label? It was called label 16. So I can simply come here and say that label 16.text is equal to GPA, all right, and then we concatenate that, or sorry, we concatenate that with GPA. All right. So now let's see if that works before we go further to checking for your distinction, upper grade, and the rest of them. Let's run the program and see what happens. All right, let's see what happens. Let me say I choose here A, B, choose here A, choose here B. Let's not go further. Compute. Wow, none. Something is happening to our code. That means there's a value that is actually wrong. Let's see how to solve that problem. Now it's definitely going to be here right now. By val. Okay, now when you're using by val simply means that you're going to send a value that will be used within the function to calculate a certain value. But now we're going to use this value, which is going to be stored here, all right, and then you're going to use those values to calculate a value, all right. Now you cannot use by val in such scenario. When you're using the value that is generated within a function in VB to calculate further, you need to reference those values. So we cannot pass by val. Instead, we're going to pass it as a reference, so that whatever we generate here will be stored here, and we can now use this to further calculate our problems. And the only place we need that is the result. Only the result. So what you're going to do is to change the value, that's the answer. We're going to change it by val. Instead of using by val, we're going to use by ref. All right, let's see if that works before we further ahead. All right, let's see to that. Let me choose B, let me choose A, let me choose AB, compute, none. That means there's a problem somewhere. Let's try to see how to solve that problem. Actually, when you write codes, you will definitely run into some problems which you need to debug. It's not bad that you encounter problems like that. Now let's see where the problem is coming from. None simply means it is not recognizing any value that is supposed to compute. There is something wrong with the code. It is giving an improper calculation. So it's a kind of value that is not returning any value at all. Now let's look at this. Let's go to our compute button, because that's where it's going to come from. Okay, we have this GPA is equal to total divided by C sum. Now where is this coming from? Where is this total and C sum coming from? We go further. This is where the C sum and the total is coming from, right? But this is a function that we need to call. We need to call this calculate to actually utilize this function. And then when it comes to this, what do you call it, the button, we've not referenced that function. We just write total divided by sum. So the computer is not seeing this total, it's not seeing this system as anything because the value is not generated. We are not referencing that value. So instead of that, we will simply remove this from here, just cut it off from here, then go to where we had that calculate, the private sum, and then we paste it here. Now we'll simply go to your button. Simply go to your button. If you don't know where, just go back here and then call the calculate. Just call the calculate that. So let's see if that works. All right. Okay, let me just take 2 or 3 values. Compute. You see, we got our GPA. Now let's increase it to. Let's have more values and see if it will change. All right, we have something there. But I want to notice one thing. I want you to actually notice something. Okay, it increases to something else. It increases. Now you click this, it keeps increasing. There's a problem with our code. You can't leave it like this. Each time you try to do something, maybe change this value, which is supposed to either reduce or increase, it increases the more. There's no reduction. What if this person actually fails? And then it fails, and then you also fail here, now also fail here. Compute, it's increasing. That's very bad of us. So let's see how to solve that problem. Now, how are we going to solve that problem? Remember that for you to, what that means is that this CU sum has a value in it. When you click compute, it regenerates the code again and then adds to the existing value. So to solve that issue, you're going to tell the compiler each time I call this calculate, make my CU become 0. So your CU sum should always be 0 at the initial stage. And also your total should always be 0 at the initial stage also. So total, merely you call, ensure that your total is equal to 0. Okay, now let's see if that solves our problem first. I hope you're following me in the video because I know it's actually a very long one, but just try to understand and it's gonna help, right? Let's say A and then AB here, compute, we got 0.6. Let's compute again, it's not changing. Wow, that's nice. All right, let's reduce this to assuming I fail the course here. God forbid I can't fail. And then here we have 0.7. Okay, let me say I failed here also. It reduces to 0.2. Let me say I fail here also. That's supposed to give us 0. All right, that gives us 0. That means it's correct. Okay, what if I score for A, like everything A? That's supposed to give me 4.0 on the dot. You have to test run the program to ensure it's working properly, and that's how you test run the programs. All right, no, not AB. Let's use A first. A, seeing the highest is 4.0, so I'm going to have 4.0 if everything is A, compute 4 on the dot. So that means that program is correct. If I change here to AB, it's supposed to have something like 3.9 thereabout. Right, that's correct. Okay, now the last thing we're going to check here is how to generate our distinction, our upper credit, and the rest of them. And that's going to be in the next video, because this video is actually very, very lengthy. I hope you understood the video. If you don't, try to go back to it, look at it again, follow it line by line, pause, check your system, do it yourself, pause, replay again. You will definitely understand. If you still don't find it pleasing to understand, then drop a comment on the comment box. I will come back and correct or re-energize you by repeating what I've said earlier or trying to add value to the place you didn't understand, right? So I'm here to actually help you, everybody, beginners. If you have any problem with VB or any other thing you want me to talk about, you can actually drop a comment on the comment box. I will get back to you. All right, until then, see you in the next video. Thank you for being by my side. Make sure you subscribe to my channel for better, good programs coming. Bye for now.